Being powerful is a bit like being ladylike. So if you have to say you are, you probably ain't. So I think I like America most of all on the days when people are not going around shouting, USA, USA, we're number one, we're the greatest. I prefer the days when they don't do that, when they're probably most to be admired.
What is it that makes us boast about our greatness and belittle others? What is it that keeps us from ascending beyond the immediate? I cannot help but wonder what Hitchens would say today. It is a thought that somewhat haunts me as I stumble through communicating a similar belief of many before me, that we are brothers and sisters of the human race, with core values shared among us, which are hidden in the labels and divisions we create.
And if you understand freedom, it's based on tolerance and nonviolence. So if it's tolerance, it should be bringing all kinds of people together, and that's following our Constitution. We shouldn't be fighting among ourselves, because we shouldn't be fighting in Washington. If we all take the same oath of office, where does the fight come from? Somebody is messing up somewhere.
Libertarians proclaim reducing government interference because all Americans should be free to live their lives and pursue their interests as they see fit, as long as they do no harm to another. That peaceful, honest people should decide for themselves how to live their lives without fear of criminal penalties, and that the government's responsibility, if any, should be protecting its citizens from force and fraud.
The ruling class has always taught and trained you to believe it to be your patriotic duty to go to war and to have yourself slaughtered at their command.
The socialist soapbox calls for a classless society with communal ownership and perspective that is driven to enhance freedom, justice, and solidarity towards a goal of peace. Peace, of course, includes police abolishment, which I must say is highly unlikely to ever be a reality, but it is the only ethical goal.
Right? Forget about effectiveness or not effectiveness. You don't get to confiscate my money just because you and your friends vote to take it.
The deliberate pragmatism of conservative thought espouses the value of moral order and building off the best of the past with long-term goals that are achieved mainly through community and family with an ideally restrained and fiscally prudent government.
People are born to be free, and that their basic instinct is the desire to free themselves from coercion, authority, and oppression.
The ideal liberal is said to believe in that natural goodness of human beings and the intrinsic value of individual liberty, that to have an honorable society, we must have moral equality across sex, race, birth origin, religion, gender, class, wealth, etc., which is achieved through nonviolent modifications of institutions.
With certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
America, America, America. Cannot help but believe we have steered ourselves quite off course. We are now reading Chapter 3 of Crimes and Punishments. Punishments. I feel as though it is very easy to want a sense of revenge and punishment on the individual level. The rules of society should be about doing what is best for society as a whole because everyone is valued. Here we begin to explore punishment in our context. This episode, I'm going to acknowledge my daughter, Caitlin. Not that I am saying you must have kids to understand this, rather that she is critical in my understanding of punishment, and I am immeasurably proud of her. As a father, I have felt that my responsibility was to create an adult that I like, who is a genuinely kind person. I have seen no role for punishment in the pathway to that objective. Never has she been physically punished, and repercussion has rarely exceeded the loss of her privilege. Rather, I treated her with respect and made moral arguments. I am biased, but she represents a good case for creating those experiences. Then on pretty much the flip side, her existence had made me understand that when it comes to violence and revenge, I am capable of anything. I feel the desire to ruthlessly inflict suffering upon the loved ones of anyone that would hurt her, leaving them for last. I feel that if she were gunned down by police, that cop would spend every moment knowing it was only a matter of time before I ripped his will to live from him. I want to reason with myself and say that I have educated and reasoned myself out of that reaction. That's probably bullshit. So I get it. I get the revenge. So I know to not codify that into our systems. Society needs to find a way to reason with me and everyone else after such a trauma, not being a participating member in my revenge. My rage would be wrong and inhumane, though entirely understandable. Right after we go over a little bit more about what the crimes and punishments in the 21st century essays are, we will get to punishments. Like most cops, the emotions felt when pinning the badge on my uniform for the first time was a source of immense pride, but also a shocking reality to the complication of performing a duty under the weight of such power and responsibility. The callousness of veterans cops and the braggadocious masculinity of the streets are immature expressions of the generations of trauma enacted on our brothers and sisters from a system oppressing us all. My internal fights with policing, whistleblowing, scholarly endeavors, reform efforts, and politics have failed in exhausting fashion.
And what I'm trying to say is that we are looking at people who are doing nothing new, and if we focus on the actions, then we can fix the things for next time, because when you focus on people, we end up thinking we can chop the head off, they put a new person in and something will change. But if we don't focus on the methodologies and the institutions, then we will be totally missing.
Somebody, put them in a prison cell, do the paperwork, go back out, and do it again. So what we really need is to change the incentives and disincentives so that no matter what the role, we're still going towards that objective that actually serves you.
More occupation, more vehicles, if your answer continues to be violent, because we have to understand that everything about policing is inherently violent. I have come in there with authority and told you what you will do.
I believe one of the reasons behind my struggles is that I had not laid out a consistent and intertwined philosophy of what in the hell I was trying to say. For the philosophical foundations of crime and punishment to be ushered into the 21st century, a reimagination of our institutions is necessary. Building off the famous works of Cesar Beccaria, I construct those pathways to the Enlightenment period of justice. Free will, sanctuary cities, gun control, eyewitness testimony, incarceration, and more must all work together for a prosperous society. Learning these lessons has been a brutal journey for me, and is unlikely to be an easy one for you, but it is one that we owe to the future, to make a safer world for our children to enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Crimes and Punishments in the 21st Century by yours truly, Michael Wood, is most conveniently ordered from the Evil Empire Amazon, because we are in that 21st century after all. For the enhanced and expanded audiobook, check out Audible. In the meantime, the philosophical half of Crime and Punishments, all 40-some chapters and then some, is being presented as a free podcast from iMember Media at imembermedia.com and will be available on all major platforms and direct from the publisher. Pause the video or see the links in the notes and prepare for the challenge and adventure of self-critical thought. Chapter 3. Punishments. From tribes to villages, towns, cities, counties, states, nations, unions, and beyond, laws are how we have attempted to codify the societal bond between the citizens of a collective society. With speech evolving to symbols and then text, the formalization of social order has continued. An accepted ideology has taken hold which assumes that liberty and security are inversely correlated. Though it is rational to conclude that some measure of freedom must be forsaken for security within a community, I caution against holding this presumption dear. While liberty is prized and promoted, the human being is not well suited to being independent of societal structure. A person without others is like a dolphin without water. Therefore, the pursuit of a balance between liberty and security continues forever as the environmental conditions continuously change the center of gravity. One environmental condition which humans seek to avoid is any which threatens the ability to procreate. Violence is a threat to one's safety, providing it with an elevated sense of a need to be averted. The physical body is essential to reproduction. This fear is applied and assumed to be a deterrent because it is scary, not for its efficacy. With no reason to believe malicious intent, the accepted ideology has been that to keep the societal bond strong, punishments are required to maintain order, The premise is that without the threat of superior force, people cannot be held from barbarism. A belief that the population is one step away from vicious brutality does not align with history or rational thought. A profound neglect of rational thought assures that the future will look upon this period of punishment as a dark age, as an era of oppressive government and staggering ignorance. The reliance on punishment is a tragic forsaking of liberty at the cost of an undeserved and facetious sense of security. The actions which make us feel safer can have outcomes which make us less secure. A fear of the other distances us from the inherent repulsion of violence. We even distance ourselves from our worst moments. The claim of our barbaric nature is an example of generic othering that avoids liability by justifying our violence in some necessary evil to avert this enormous catastrophe of the natural state of man. Common statements such as, "There must have been a reason they were suspected," and "They must have been crazy to do all that," sets the stage to depend on laws at all costs, for if not for the rules, chaos would ensue. Instead, the barbarism results when dehumanizing people by using cages and pain compliance to house them as less than animals, as super predators, vermin, and savages. Teenagers and the innocent are executed by the state. Millions of children are placed in confinement, and slavery is legalized in a supposed effort to not be the savages. We are all the products of an evolutionary process dependent upon the minimization of violence. Between fight or flight, flight is the preferred response to species survival. Flight and othering keep us from knowing the unknown and attaches the unfamiliar to a threat response. So long as the foreign things are kept away, then an illusion of safety is felt, even while more danger exists within those things which are familiar. Be it from the conditions of our social constructs, an unfortunate side effect of evolution, or a combination. The violence within our group is abhorred, but is far preferable than the unknown. Better the demon you know than the one you do not. Ultimately, the only other is the accumulation of power within our government and resource allocation. Categorizers such as race, class, religion, gender, nationality are all elements of social construction which positions of power have used as tools to maintain and grow political influence. The influence of power creates a structure that erodes communities by creating the conditions of oppression. It is not poverty and struggle that are correlated to violations of the social order. It is inequality. Wealth inequality that flaunts extravagance in the face of hardship shall be subject to law, not the poverty which results from exploitation. Peacefully poor communities are too plentiful to list, and our people unite together in mutual struggles. The instinct to join is so powerful that we are fooled into harming the societal fabric by condoning the infliction of violence on our fellow human beings if we make them unfamiliar. With an understanding of this tendency, we can use it to our advantage. Education is a frequent response to the issues which impede human progress, but it is an incomplete perspective. Whether the learner or the teacher, participating in the process of education is an experience intended to improve. The only long-lasting method for behavior modification is better experiences. The mission of a loving parent is in seeking those experiences for their child. We all know this on some level. To tie in the concept of punishment in society, look at it as a poor choice of words for the disincentives against breaking the societal bond and laws. Being that the societal contract is a two-way street, violations include the societal responsibility to provide needed experiences. It is not that the government is to be a parent figure or even a big brother, just that it takes a village. Tune in to the next episode as we explore further into the discussion of punishment in Chapter 4, The Desire to Punish.